to the show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Matt's podcast. And it's me, it's Dante. It's always Dante, though, except for over on the horror podcast, I had some surprise guests fill in for me, and it wasn't Dante. So I thought that was cool, and maybe I'll do it over here too. I'll have somebody fill in and do some episodes here, and I can take a week off, maybe. But either way, I love you guys. That's why I don't want to take time off. And thank you for being here. This week on the podcast, I actually want to welcome a new guest. I've been doing that recently, get a new guest out here, chit-chatting it up and talking. I want to introduce a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt all the way from Portland, Oregon, because sometimes I talk to folks out there too. Y'all may not know that. It's been a while though. But my guest today is Miss Sarah Oriza.
Oriza, yes,
Boom!
got it.
Yes, I'm the smartest person alive. Miss Sarah Oriza, and she's actually one of the co-founders of G.I.R.L.S Gym out in Portland, Oregon. We're going to have a conversation, learn about her story, the inspiration behind starting the gym, and we're just going to have a good old conversation. So, Sarah, welcome to the show, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
So how are things? How's your week? How you feeling? What's going on, Sarah?
I'm feeling pretty great. It's always hard to wake up in the morning, you know. It's not the morning anymore. But I got to teach today, I've got to train today, and now I'm here with you. So
Well, cool. So I guess, starting things off, just as this is your first time here, and I really want to know your story. What got you into martial arts, and what inspired you to start up the gym?
I started martial arts in 1996. I started kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My husband now, who was my boyfriend at the time, did Kimpo when we met. I was going to go to his school, but since he was an instructor at his Kimpo school, that wasn't allowed. And so we started seeking out different martial arts schools for me to train at. And we went to a judo club, we went to a taekwondo school, ninjutsu school, and then a Jeet-Kune-Do school. And many Jeet-Kune-Do schools evolved into kind of mixed martial arts schools. And so we were doing Jeet-Kune-Do, but that included Muay Thai kickboxing, Western boxing, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. It's funny because around that same time, like Jeet-Kune-Do, I remember growing up and just having this fascination with Bruce Lee. And, we're at the library getting all these Bruce Lee books and the Jeet-Kune-Do book. And we try to read and we're just like, oh, yeah, we definitely get this,
Right.
before all 13 years of our brains here. We're picking this all up. So basically you've been kind of in the martial arts, like just kind of dabbling in everything right from the get-go.
Yeah. I was 15 years old when I started. I'm 43 years old now. So 28 years I've been training. And I've had lots of different experiences in martial arts, but for 28 years, I've pretty much been focused on Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Cool. And in jiu-jitsu for you, it's funny. Sorry, just got sidetracked in my brain because when you said ninjutsu, I always think about Ninja Turtles, and we always thought that was made up until we started reading books. But for you doing jiu-jitsu, and along that journey, have you always been with the same gym, or did you kind of go to one gym, then, transition to another gym at any point, or was it always at like one spot for you?
So I started at Straight Blast Gym, which was the only school, the only mixed martial arts school here when I first started. And then over the years, many different gyms broke off of Straight Blast Gym. One of those is Impact Jiu-Jitsu, and I stuck with them. And so I mostly trained with them. I did some MMA and I trained with them through that. Uh, the owner of Impact Jiu-Jitsu, I've known him for over 25 years now. I did have about a 10-year break where I just focused on girls' gym and building up my own gym. Um, because it was hard to do that and train somewhere else and work a full-time job. And I have two kids I'm raising. So I really just dialed it down to girls' gym. And then once the gym reached a point where I could support myself, I didn't have to work another job. Then I went back and I'm training with Impact Jiu-Jitsu again. So
Okay. Good, good. Yeah, I can imagine, as you're kind of juggling everything, and then the big thing there, having a full-time job, it can be super stressful and sometimes, defeating, because like
yeah.
I think about all this stuff now with the social media and the podcast and everything, and it's like, oh man, you're like, well, like, why am I doing this? Why am I, and then you get to a certain point where you just, you realize, well, it's not about, you know, money. It's about like your love for something.
Mm.
And then that money, that comes along later on where you now can support yourself off of what your passion is. So that's good that you stuck with it and didn't, get defeated.
Absolutely. There's this song, I believe it's by Lily Frost, and the lyrics, I play them in my head all the time. It's do what you love and the money will follow. And I truly believe that if you love something enough, like I would do this, I did do it for a very long time without making any money, where I would be working and taking money out of my paycheck to keep my business open. But I knew that I was passionate enough about it and I believed in it enough that I would reach that point where it would support me, and it does. It supports my family now, which is it's just awesome. It's such a good feeling to have built something like that.
Good. Good. My job currently, I really enjoy my regular 9 to 5 job. And I always say it, if I become like wealthy in whether it be lottery or the podcast, any of them blowing up, I would still do my job. I actually really, really love my job. I love working with the individuals I work with. So I just show up and like, hey, I'm still here,
Yeah.
guys. Um, but I think that's just, again, the big thing is like when you um have something that you're passionate about, you just stick with it and it'll pay you in the long run. It'll reward you in the long run.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you get to, I'd say I live my best life now, like I get to empower people. I found my purpose, and I think that's a huge thing. A lot of people have trouble finding their purpose, but I truly have a purpose in life, and it just makes me feel great every single day. So,
That's awesome. Like, yeah, like you said, so many people have a hard time doing that, find that purpose. Then I don't know. It gets weird because it's like some folks tell you, "Oh no, your purpose is to do this and do that," and it's like, I mean, maybe,
you're
but
right.
in the meantime, I'm gonna go do this other thing I really, really like that I seem to be enjoying, and it doesn't wear me down. I don't think anyone's purpose is to, you know, go be a bricklayer and get yelled at, and then come home and don't have time for things that they love. And some people
Yeah,
may really love bricklaying, though. I don't know. Just
that is true.
no
That is
offense to
true.
those guys.
I worked in accounting as my other job for a long time, and I don't enjoy accounting. I did it for such a long time. I'm good at it, but I was so unhappy doing it, but it paid the bills while it needed to. So,
I was in customer service for on and off for a long time, and I was always told, like, you're really good, you're really nice, you're great with the people. Like the customers come in with a complaint, you calm them down, and you fix the issues. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean I like it.
right.
Like, I'm just like, because I was quick to turn on the company. Like they come in mad, I was like, oh yeah, they're jerks. Like, I'm with you. I support your argument. You know what? You know what? Here's something free. like we're in this together. It doesn't mean that I enjoy the job. It was just that I was able to like give the customer something free and like, here, take this lock. Here's a free lock. Like everybody loves free locks. Um, so yeah, I definitely get the ideal of, you know, you're doing it just because you're good at it, but that doesn't mean you like it. You know, as far as girls gym goes, like, you know, how did that come about for you though? Like, you know, what was, you know, was there anything that kind of just, you know, clicked for you one day? It was like, look, man, I think like I'm good at this and I'm enjoying. I just want to do my own thing, or you know, the empowerment, you know, there too. You know, being able to empower people. You know, what's the story there?
Right, right. So we opened in 2005, and I'd been training for about 10 years at that point. Um, and throughout the years, I trained with a lot of really awesome women, but they would always quit. Like, there was, I don't know anybody who I trained with in 2005, any women who I trained with in 2005 that still train today. And I love it. I love what I do. And it is, like you're saying, empowering. It makes you feel really good. It's important to be able to defend yourself, and to have those hand to hand combat skills. And so I just, over time, after watching so many women drop out, I thought, well, women just need a comfortable place to train. Um, and it's not that we don't want to train. It's that it's hard when, I was young and I was tall, and it made it easier for me. My boyfriend trained. So I was able to jump into a more awkward situation that a lot of people really struggle with, especially a lot of women. I mean, honestly, it's hard for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, but being a woman stepping into it makes it a bit more challenging. And so I really believed that if women had a comfortable place to train, that would make them want to do it. So when we first started, I subleased space. We had classes 3 days a week. Um, and then I started getting more and more people in and realizing that I was right. Women wanted to do it. It was a struggle for sure, like finding ways to advertise to people to get them in the door. But eventually, we had enough people that word of mouth really started working for us, and people would find us. And then times have changed very much over the years. So more women are looking for ways to empower themselves, and that's been really beneficial for us. Just women trying to be stronger people, and like looking for ways to feel good and be strong and be athletic. Um, in 2005, that wasn't necessarily the case. So, and so over all those years and through all the changes we've had, it's helped us grow. In 2017, we moved to our current location, where we were able to, like, I lease it, I don't sublease it. So we have it full time. We have classes morning, evening, afternoon, 7 days a week. We have full classes for all of those times. And so now it's just taking off, which is so rewarding.
It has to be, you know, like you said, the rewarding part, but just I think like, you know, when you look back at your, you know, your 15-year-old self who started this, and then you say, you know, dude, I think she'd be super proud of me. Like I think she'd be
Yes.
super proud of who she became. So that's really, really awesome. Good, good. And you know, as far as your community and the environment, you know, how do you um foster like a supportive like community and atmosphere within the gym, you know, because like you say, you know, the women that you've trained with, you know, in the past and stick around because just this field is mostly male dominated. So not mostly male dominated, it is male dominated, you know,
Right.
but you know, in your atmosphere in your community, you know, how do you make it welcoming for them and you know, make them want to stay?
Um, I think so. it's surprisingly easy, I guess, when you have a group of people who want to support each other, right? So we don't have like this competitive atmosphere at the gym. Many of our people do compete, but we're not competitive with each other. We're all here to help each other grow, and everybody's so kind to each other. And I'm going to age myself a lot here, but I if you do you ever watch Cheers, the old
Yes.
TV show? Yeah. So they say cheers where everybody knows your name, right? When you
Hmm.
walk in the door here, everybody knows your name. We're excited to see each other. We say hello. Often when you train with people, you spend as much time with them as you do with your own family, and you build really strong relationships with people. And then we also do different things to foster our community, in the sense we get together and watch fights together, when there's a fight we want to see, or we put on a karate movie, right? And we do a movie night and watch some karate movie. And every summer we do a summer camping trip with the entire team. So in addition to punching each other in the face or choking each other and trying to break each other's limbs, we do things outside of that to encourage everybody. So.
That's super cool. Like I know at our gym, there's a lot of like game nights for the kids and movie nights. For the kids to be there and the parents can kind of like here, go have a date night or something. But sometimes I think too, like, hey, I'd like to go over and do a game night at the gym. I think we did try to start a Dungeons and Dragons group once, and everyone knew what was going on but me. I was just like I don't know. I was like, I don't want to do this. Can we play Risk or Monopoly? What are we doing here? But
Yeah.
that's cool.
Well, I'm a little of a hard nose sometimes with them, so I don't let them dance during classes. And when you have a group of girls, somebody's bound to try to dance. And I play really good music too, which they really have a hard time with that. And they tell me with the music I play, I should expect them to dance. But I tell them I expect them to have control over their bodies at all times, and so I don't want them dancing during class. But if we have some sort of gathering outside of class, then I don't have any rules about that. So then they can all dance together and have a good time.
Yeah, like when you mentioned the dance, I was like, I mean, I was just dancing the other day. Uh, like I was stuck in a triangle, and it was a tight triangle. I probably should have tapped, and then a specific song came on that I really liked, and I don't know, like I um clipped the video at that part because the music hit as I popped out of triangle. And I looked at my teammate and started kind of like dancing a little bit. And I go, dude, this is my favorite song. Um, and then I showed my wife, and she was just like, what is wrong with you?
Well, I see many of the guys I train with dance as well, and I'll walk up to people and I'll grab their shoulders and I'll be like, "Don't do that, don't do that." It's not even at my gym, but I still tell people not to dance.
Yeah, gotta focus. Focus. Focus on hand at task. Task at hand. That's the saying. Task
There
at
we go.
hand.
Yeah.
Um, so at the gym, what kind of different programs do you all offer there? You have your jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, like things like that.
Yeah, so we have Muay Thai classes. We have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes. We have gi and no gi classes. We were doing like self-defense workshops, but as many people talk about with an occasional self-defense workshop, how much do you really get from that, right? Like you're not going to learn those moves and walk away and do those moves. I still make the argument that a self-defense workshop generally gives people confidence to fight back, and the most important thing to do is to fight back. So if that's what they're getting from that, I think that's great. However, it's not regular training. So we did recently add self-defense classes to our schedule, which a few of the girls call it like MMA light, so it's not MMA, but we're working on trapping skills and clinch and how to break grips and get away from people in that class. So it's still very hands-on, but I think it's more appealing to a lot of people who aren't quite ready to jump in and do jujitsu, right? And everything we do in that self-defense class is about defense and getting away. Not, in kickboxing or jujitsu, you also learn a lot of attacking that doesn't necessarily apply to self-defense. And then we have kids classes, and we have a teen class, and I want to try to get more teens classes, but it's always so hard to find those ideal times when you already have a full schedule.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. Um, that's one thing my wife and I were talking about. I want to say over the weekend, recently at least, was the whole self defense ideal. There's a movie, and I haven't talked about it in a while, but like I had big feelings about it. It was old Jennifer Lopez movie, Enough, and back then watching it when it came out, I was like, oh, you go girl, everything. But once I like started doing jujitsu and martial arts and so I was like, wait a minute. That's not how that works. She went to class for 3 days.
Right.
That's
Wouldn't
that
it be
don't
amazing if it worked that way?
I mean, and I'm pretty sure people signed up after that thinking, oh, it works this way. And then, they get in that class, got swept once. Was like, okay, it does not work that way at
Right.
all. But, when it comes to self defense, that's always something that, I try to express to my wife. Like, she doesn't train. Like, I've been trying to get her to train, but she's just like, there's hurdles that we have there. But, one thing I always try to stress to is like self defense doesn't necessarily mean being able to punch somebody in the face
Right.
or being able to lock in an arm bar. It means just distance control. Being able to you know wrap somebody up. Even
Yeah.
if you need to, you don't even need to punch somebody. Like I've had to a couple times out at the bar, contain someone, just hugging them, like
Yeah.
just hey man, like relax, like it's cool, like don't worry, you can't go anywhere. Like we're here
Right.
together until you calm down. But so many folks have this ideal of self-defense being, I'm gonna, square up with them and knock them out. And it's like that's not self-defense. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point,
no.
you're offensive.
Exactly. I tell people all the time, I'm like, that's mutual combat. If you're gonna stand there and square off with somebody, like, so I generally teach like knees and elbows, right? Like, why are you throwing strikes with somebody? Of course, it's excellent if you have developed the skills to be able to strike with somebody like that, but it's not self-defense if you're standing there across from somebody choosing to fight them.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if you're choosing to fight them at this point, we've gone from misunderstanding to something else, and
Yeah.
something else could be really, really bad. You know, I always like last year I was at a baseball game with a group of friends. We were in the suites. Weird flex, but that's how we do. Um, and the my buddy's son, who is now training with me, which is awesome. I'm super proud of that kid. But we're sitting there in the suite talking. I was explaining to him how, like, I don't think in this room that I'm the baddest dude in here, and I don't think I could beat everybody up. But I do know if something went down, I'm going to be okay because I'm going to get out of this room. Like,
Yeah.
y'all are not going to corner me. So many people have this idea of like, you know, stand up to the challenge and fight. It's like, hey, there's 8 people in this room. If y'all
You're
decide y'all
right.
didn't like Dante today, Dante's got to find a way to that door. And Dante needs
Yeah.
to get out because people might say, "Oh, don't be a coward and don't run." It's like, man, I'm not. I'm trying to survive. I got stuff to do tomorrow. I can't be getting jumped.
Right, right. Yeah, we had a situation here on our bus system quite a few years back where uh, a few people ended up dying because they were trying to help some girls that were being harassed on the bus, and those girls did get up and move away and got themselves to a safer place. And so a lot, like some of our students would say to us, it would be totally different if you would have been there. I'm like, it wouldn't have been different. The guy had a knife in his hand. I would have been out of there. I'm not going to try to talk him down, like I really value my life and I want to stay alive as long as I can and help other people stay alive, And the way we do that is we get away from those situations.
Oh yeah, that's the key. It's like, look, you want to help, you can't pour from an empty cup, and if you get stabbed up by somebody, that's the empty cup right there. You don't want to be pouring from
Exactly.
that. I mean, maybe that was a little grisly, but still. But yeah, it's like having people understand that just there's so many different layers to self-defense and what the ideal of a fight is, even because standing up and squaring up with somebody, sure, that's what we've always seen on TV, movies, that's I always wonder with stuff that we do in real life, is it we see it in the movie, but is it that we saw it in the movie and we do it in real life, or somebody made a movie off of something that they saw,
Right.
and then but we see two people standing in the middle of the street, fist fighting. It's like, the old school, like, no kicks allowed, no wrestling, just boxing. And it's like, man, I know I don't got good hands. So I'm going to do everything I can to wrap this dude up and make sure he cannot hit me. And no one should get hurt in that situation. So I
Right.
think that's the big thing I always look at, is like, can you keep, people from getting hurt? If it's a one-on-one situation specifically, someone's trying to stab you. I mean, if they got a knife, you know what, man? You win this argument. You're right.
Yeah.
The sky is
Absolutely.
the sky is green. Like, I have nothing to say.
100%.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I had a situation where I was training a younger girl, and she was at school, and her grandfather ended up coming in and talking to me afterwards about it because she was being bullied in school, and it was terrible. But while she was being bullied at her locker, she told the girl, and she was probably like 11 years old. She told the girl that was bullying her, "I'll meet you after school." So rather than defending herself right there, she set up a fight, skipped getting on the bus, went to the park, gets in a fight with the girl. It was so hard. Like, I couldn't be terribly disappointed in her because she executed a great takedown and controlled the girl, But then when they came to talk to me, I was like, you're not defending yourself. You arranged a fight. Like, you cannot do that.
Yeah, that's not self-defense at that point. Although,
Yeah.
like, the Dante logic would have been, I would have like, yeah, you know what? Let's meet at the park. Go ahead. Yeah, 3:30. Bet we'll be at the park 3:30. I'm going on to play video games.
That's the
I'm
way to
gonna be
do
at
it.
that
That's
park.
the way to do it.
Um, but that's just, again, though, one of those things that when you look at kids, especially, I have an 8-year-old daughter who plays in the neighborhood, and for the most part, everybody's cool. Some of the kids say goofy things because they're kids. They say silly things. That little boy said something goofy the other day to my daughter, and she asked, "What does it mean?" And it's like, how do we explain this one? But you know, my wife, she goes the route of explaining. I go the route of saying, "Look, if they say this, ask them what it means. If they can't tell you what it means, then just let them." I was like, "I don't think you know what it means, so you probably shouldn't be saying it." Now, it may not, it may not, alleviate any issues, but it at least lets the person know, it makes them think. Because I've had that said to me when I was younger. Someone said that to me once, and I was like, "Oof, maybe
Yeah,
I
that
shouldn't say
that's a
that."
good one. That's a really good one.
But my daughter, she's such, she's such a sweet little kid. She doesn't have me, oozing out of her yet. Um, but we always try to teach her, at least in these neighborhood, disputes, is like, look, let them know if you're going to be rude, you don't want to hang out with them, you know. And she tends to be like right out front anyway, so we can see if anything gets silly. But I told her, Worst case, walk away. And if they follow you, you come right to the porch, and then, you know, they can talk to me if there's
Yeah.
a bigger issue, and then I'll talk to their dad. And then, again, we go from misunderstanding to something else. Hopefully, hey, guy, this is what's going on, and hopefully, it's alleviated there. But you just don't know what people these days. Um, but having programs like yours, I think, is very, very important, because without, a gym where kids can learn self-defense, people in general learn self-defense, you have a whole lot of chaos going on out in the streets.
Yeah.
So, you had mentioned, some of, your participants, they compete. You're not traditionally a competition school though, but you all do go out to like some of the local competitions and things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I fought from I've done jujitsu tournaments too, but I fought from like 2005 to 2010. Um, and then I had, while I was teaching, so at the uh, at G.I.R.L.S Gym, um, when I was fighting, a lot of people from the gym wanted to compete. It encouraged the competition a little bit more. And then I had a few MMA fighters, but primarily I take people to jujitsu tournaments. I'm pretty strict if somebody wants to do MMA, just because the likelihood of injury is so high, and the other person is training very, very hard for you. So I have really strict training rules for MMA fighters. For people who are doing jujitsu, I tell them they need to at least be training 3 times a week. Obviously, more is much better. And so we go to our local tournaments fairly often. At least 4 times a year, we go to a local tournament that's been here, I think, also since 2005. They've been going on. Um, and we do very well at the tournaments, which is it's fun, it's great, and it's I think women having similar body types to train with so that they can really push themselves and go hard helps our team a lot. So when they go, they're always on the podium. Not that that's the important thing to us about it. I'd rather just see them get out there and compete. It improves your skill. It's good for you mentally. So I try to encourage everybody to eventually at least do one jujitsu tournament and try it out. The risk of injury is pretty low in a jujitsu tournament. Like, I mean, it's comparable to being at your school because injuries happen just because we do a takedown and get a knee twisted wrong. Um, or we overestimate ourselves, right? And I think that that's just as likely to happen in a tournament as at the gym. So I really try to encourage everybody to get out there and at least have that experience once.
I definitely agree, even though I don't compete anymore. Um, like I always say, you got to try it at least once. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, at least, for some folks, like I always say with jujitsu, I don't think it's for everybody, but I think everybody should try it. So that way,
Mhm.
if it's for you or not. I think the same thing with competing, it's not for everyone, but try it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm a real head case when I compete, which gives me the ability to really help my athletes. But yeah, I'm like not somebody you really want to be around when I'm getting ready for a competition. So
I can imagine. I see teammates when they're getting ready. I'm just like, don't want around with them.
yeah.
Not today. I'm gonna go ahead and like go over here in this. Oh yeah, my hip hurt. I'm just gonna drill by myself in this corner while you do crazy stuff. Oh wow, look at that flying arm bar. Okay, glad I alerted you. None of my
I don't
teammates can do
fly
flying arm
anymore.
bars.
I used to fly a little bit more, but there's no flying out of this body now.
Like, I think if I even think about trying to do flying anything, my body just says, "Nah, you 46. You better sit down, dude." like, your Achilles feel tight. Don't you dare try to jump. Uh, for your uh, classes there, as far as the skill levels, um, do you have like specific, like, like beginners classes, intermediate classes, advanced classes, or is it kind of a mixed levels type?
all of
Uh,
our
Training?
class all of our classes are mixed levels. I think it would be hard to fill the classes. I mean, we have over 150 members, but I still think it would be hard to fill classes if I had like an advanced class and a beginner class. I also find that it really helps. It helps beginners elevate their game working with more experienced people, and it really helps the more experienced people improve their game working with less experienced people when they have to articulate things and help those people figure out, problem solve. um, I don't think that I got very good at defense right away because I had guys attacking me all the time. It wasn't until I started teaching jujitsu that my offense got really good, because I had to think about it deeper. And so I think that's a really important thing to need to do to articulate what you're learning. And then when we need to, we just separate the class. So if I want to have a more advanced section, I can send the more advanced people off to one side of the room, have somebody take the beginners off to the other side of the room. And I don't find that hard to separate people. I've been teaching for 20 years, so most things teaching aren't terribly challenging for me anymore.
Understandable. Uh, they, I remember early on training for myself. After I got my blue belt, I remember another teammate, he had just gotten his blue belt. Shortly thereafter, our coach had us take two groups and teach them side control escapes. And it was weird because it was like they're purple belts there. I was like, I don't know if I should be, are you sure? And it wasn't, I didn't understand at the time. It was just him wanting us to be confident in explaining what we do to get out of side control. And that really made me think about it a lot deeper. And then he had me helping with the kids' classes. And as you try to show a child how to do something and explain it to them, it now opens up your eyes to what you're doing. Because if you're trying to teach them, uh, a takedown, or oompa sweep, these things is like, oh, I can't do that from my elbow. You would have to be up on your hand because as
Right.
you show it to the kids and then you start seeing, I was like, what are they doing? They're on their elbow because I did it from my elbow. So as you
Yeah.
demonstrated like properly for them to do it, you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, every once in a while, I'll even teach something, and maybe I'm teaching something a little that I haven't taught a whole lot. Not terribly long ago, I taught something wrong for like 5 minutes of the class before I caught on to it, and then I had to correct myself. But I realized as everybody was fumbling around and nobody was able to make the move work that I left out some really important details. So
I think as the kids started getting better and my skill wasn't like they're getting better than me. So as I'm teaching, I was like, oh no, like, see like one group, wait a minute, what they're doing is way better than what I just showed. Hey, hold on. I had to go over to my coach, like, hey, buddy. So, like, I'm going to go ahead and step down until I get, leveled up some more. Cause these kids, like, and even now when I see the kids, I'm just like, dude, you guys are learning so much so fast and they're picking it up and running with it. And, my rickety old body, I'm like, I mean, I stretch enough. I should be moving better, but oh, inverts? Huh. That's weird. Nah, not doing that today. I invert if like my body, like if I'm in a situation, I will do it. But if you say, all right, this is what we're gonna drill, if I'm
Oh,
thinking about it, nah.
I'm so with you there. Like I can totally invert when I'm rolling, but like I start thinking about my neck, and that's my neck has been a problem for me for many, many years. So I start getting in my head about that. Like if I invert and drill for an entire class with inversion, I'm not sleeping well tonight. So
Like if we were doing something and whatever it was, I kept rolling. I was not doing it right. It worked. Even my training partner was like, Dante, you're doing this way wrong. And my coach comes, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure how you're getting away with this. That like you're not supposed to do it that way. And they kept trying to like, I wasn't tucking my head. I was like posting off my head instead of tucking my head. Whatever it was we're doing, they're like, yeah, like you're making it work, but I don't think you're gonna be able to make that work for very long in your life. You should probably I was like, look, coach, I'm only learning this so I could defend it. I don't think there's going to ever be a scenario where I'm going to do this exact move because I don't bend that way. But it's
Right.
important to still learn it. Still important.
Absolutely.
And have you like encountered any challenges in running girls gym in terms of like it being a comfortable space for females in training?
Um, not I think it's we definitely encounter a lot of challenges, but I think when people come in, well, what I'd say is generally people who don't have prior experience training at other gyms, take to us a little bit more. Um, there is a thing that exists with women who sometimes, and men have this idea sometimes too, but it's crazy to me when I hear it from women. I can't get as good because I'm not trained with men. If I come to girls' gym, I'm not going to get as good as I would if I go to this other gym where there's men. And we've proven over and over again that that is not the case. Not all of my girls train with guys. Because I train at Impact, they have the option to go with me. I give them plenty of opportunities to go and train with the guys there if they do want to. But it's absolutely not necessary to have guys to train with. What's important is that you have people smaller than you have people bigger than you have people less experienced than you have more people more experienced than you. Um, and it's kind of a crazy thing to experience, to have women say that directly to me, um, but that's probably one of the bigger challenges that we've had over the years, is just proving that we can be just as good as any other school, and that we're here and that we're serious. But otherwise, I'd say like people come in and they're focused, and like we have a good time together, and the experience is nearly the exact same as you walk into any co-ed gym, um, except that it's all women. So
Uh, like it's crazy to think that you do have some women who, like you said, have that ideal though. It's like I have to train with men to get better. At one of my coaches, he would have me train with one of our female grapplers, helping her prep for competitions from time to time. And I remember thinking one day, I was like, this might be, I mean, she would always do very well.
mhm.
Um, but there was one point where I just thought, like, I feel like at some point this might be a detriment to her because I don't move the way that her opponents would move.
Right.
Like, I don't, you know, I don't react the way that they would probably react. I'm not sure, if we would always pair up. But
Mhm.
when it came time like to drill specifically for, her competitions, it was like, and I think part of it though is that I was safe,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, but I also felt like, and we didn't have a lot of females at our gym. Like there
Right.
weren't very many women training at our gym at that time, at least.
Mhm.
So, when it came to training at home, I guess it was trained with me. And in my mind, I was like, I don't know if this is going to help her very much in terms of prepping for a competition. Whereas we had, a lot of actual competitors, like younger, like teenage boys that were competing that might have been closer to her size
Yeah.
and potentially skill level too, because I think like for me, because this was when I was a white belt, so I'm still kind of in that phase of like, got to be strong. It's like, whereas like these kids, they've been training for a long time, so they know better by this point. Their
Uh-huh.
body's molded into it. I'm like, maybe she should train with them just because again, size wise that might be better, and also skill wise I think they might be
Yeah.
more skilled as well, and um, have a better understanding. Not that I'm dumb or anything, but I was a white belt at the time, and
Right.
I think I was just doing white belt things. Well, she
You're
was a white belt
right.
too, but still,
That's what happens. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think
I still do white belt things.
I think especially at co-ed places, like instructors can have kind of a challenge, like how do I make sure this person gets the best training they can, but I also make sure they're safe, like you were saying, like they're not going to get hurt because I pair them up with this person, like too inexperienced of a person. I rarely find myself with somebody purple belt or above. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I rarely find myself with somebody purple belt or above that I feel like I need to be terribly conservative to keep myself safe, you know? Um, and so I can have more fun and take more chances. Where often with like a white belt male, if he's my size or bigger, or my height or bigger, I will often make sure I start on top so I can kind of figure out what sort of aggression I'm going to get from him before I decide where I'm willing to go, you know? And I haven't always been this way because I'm kind of the type of person that likes to like prove a point. But now that I'm 43, I'm trying to prove less points so that I have the longevity. Um, but so that's been my thing lately. I'm like, I'll start in your guard. We'll see how it goes. You know, if all of a sudden I feel them grab me and all their muscle is engaging when they're grabbing me, then I know that this is not necessarily a safe person and I'm going to have to be really, really conservative. Um, but then sometimes, well, what happens often, especially in like no gi, because in gi I have my belt on, but in no gi, um, guys will sometimes like they won't know who I am, so they will roll with me the way they think they should roll with a girl. And I'll take advantage of that. And I used to feel kind of bad taking advantage of that. Like, you know, they don't know that I've been training for 28 years. Like that's a lot of skill. But then I started realizing that if I was a guy, they wouldn't do that to me. So I kind of need to teach them their lesson. Like, don't go easy on me just because I'm a girl. Not that I want them to like go aggro every time they roll with some girl, right? But like, also don't look at me and say, oh, she's a girl. It's going to be an easy roll because it absolutely won't be. So,
I remember, I want to say it was last year. I visited one of our classes on a Wednesday morning, and there's a brown belt, small young lady, um, and we're rolling. She gets my back, and I was just like, "Oh no!" Like most folks, they get my back. Okay, you go through the routines, back escapes. Not with her. And I don't know if it was a matter of underestimating because I don't generally underestimate anyone. I just
mhm.
assume anyone across from me, I don't care what color your belt is. My assumption is you're a black belt. That's just my mind. I'm like, yep, they probably know a whole lot more than me. Like I do. And she ended up on my back, and I was just like, oh man. Like I didn't get choked or anything, but I was definitely uncomfortable. I was like,
Right.
how do we get here? I did everything right, didn't I? And I just had a backpack with me for the next 4.5 minutes.
Oh, that's the worst.
Like, what do I do from this point? Other than get yelled at coach, you're talking about escape. Like, really? I would have never guessed that.
Like I'm
Um,
trying.
like, sometimes coach is just nice to be held. All right. Maybe I want to be here. Uh, but yeah, it is fascinating, when it comes to people getting on the mats and just either they look across them and they see someone, they're like, huh, maybe I should go lighter on this person, or like what I always tell people, and this more so pertains to myself. I signed a waiver, you know do what you got to do, because when I get my chance, I'm going to do what I got to do. And like, I'm a big boy. So if I gotta go Americana or Kimura on you, like, look, you signed a waiver too. Just understand you should have did it first. Or at the very least choke me. I don't know. But wrist lock. Like I used to hate, I still hate wrist locks, but I tell everyone, I know you're not supposed to tell white belts to wrist lock, but I told the white belts to wrist lock me. I'm like, look, you can wrist lock me. I won't be mad at you. I won't tell. Well, I will be mad at you, but not like in a way where it's like I'm gonna like now go tell Coach Hill, like he's over there wrist locking. Like, no, I'm gonna be like, dude, I'm so upset, but I'm so proud that you executed that. But like now,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk to you for 2 weeks. Like,
Right.
yeah,
How dare you wrist lock me?
like how dare you listen to what I say? Never listen to what I say. I don't give good instructions. Um,
Yeah. Sometimes we'll have like newer people. This happens at Girls Gym. This happens everywhere, but a lot of times at Girls Gym, we'll have newer people, women come in, and women have a tendency to be afraid of hurting people, you know? And so they won't want to do something that I've asked them to do. Maybe a simple example would be a rear naked choke, right? Trying to get somebody to squeeze somebody's neck who has never squeezed a neck before is pretty challenging. Um, and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to hurt you. And I don't know how many times I've been like, I've been training for 28 years. Like, it's a little offensive that you think that you can walk in here with no experience and hurt me. And also, why would you even sign up with me if that was the case, right? Like, come in here, you have no experience. I don't want you to try to hurt me, but I can control whether you hurt me or not. So try to do what I'm asking you to do, and I'm not going to let you hurt me. But it's a really common one. And some of my more experienced students have started to like also get that feeling, where they'll talk to me about it, about somebody thinking they're going to hurt them and how it feels a little offensive.
yeah, like I had a buddy come in once and he did the trial class and he ended up not sticking with jiu-jitsu. He moved on to Muay Thai instead. But he was uncomfortable. He was just like, I don't, I don't want to hurt anyone. It's like, dude, like, trust me, if you were going to hurt me, I made a big mistake somewhere along the line, other than like my, maybe catching a straight elbow or a knee, which, those are just, it's not, it's like, hey, buddy, it's not you. Like,
Yeah,
those
that's
things
just
happen.
absolutely.
But, it's like trying to reassure folks and let them know, like, look, you're here because you got to think about it this way too, I guess. If you're in any kind of altercation in the street, a person that's trying to, cause you problems, they're probably not thinking, I don't want to hurt you. Like a road
Right.
rage situation, they're not thinking, I don't want to hurt you.
Mhm.
So sometimes you might have to go to that level of like, you know, not trying to hurt somebody, but, full, like, full clip with restraints.
Yeah.
So, and I guess a new student doesn't necessarily know that limit just yet, though. But
Mhm.
it's like letting them know, like, hey, man, like you ain't gonna hurt me.
Yeah, I often say like we're trying to kill each other within the rules, right? Like and courteously. So
Yes, that's how I explain it to my wife. It's like last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a point where I couldn't train, and I says to my wife, I was like, I just need to go fight my friends. And she was like, it sounds really weird when you say that, but I understand what you're saying. I was like, yes, I just need to go be with my friends and we need to like fight, try to choke each other. And
Yeah.
it's like she gets it, my grandparents, whenever I visit them, and they're like, are you still doing the martial arts? Yeah, I'm still fighting friends. Please don't say that. Don't say it like that. Like what? Like we care about each other. We signed the waivers.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it if you understand it. So.
Yeah, well, that's the key point is understanding. If you are on the outside looking in, you definitely don't get what's going on. My science teacher in high school said that when he was explaining science, like for him looking at something, on the board or on the overhead projector. I don't even know if they still use those anymore. Um, but he was pointing out how he sees so many different things because he's in the know. He understands what's going on there. And he used the example of pro wrestling. He was like, I imagine, some of you all here watch pro wrestling. You all could probably watch that, and there's a lot going on that I don't, I'm not getting. And you all can see those little details. And, even kind of thinking about it with martial arts, when I have guests over watching fights with me, and the fight goes to the ground, they're like, oh, it's so boring. They're not doing anything. And it's like, dude, there's a lot going on, a
Yeah.
whole lot going on. But,
Yeah.
those who don't get it, it's like, it's hard for them to get it until they get on the inside and really see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing about a lot of our members here, is so many walk in the door and have never seen a UFC fight before or have only got a glimpse of it.
Wow.
And that's not something you find at most gyms, right? But at a women's gym, it's not unheard of for them to walk in and have never seen a fight before. And then we'll like introduce them to fights. And I've watched, like, we did a UFC 1 fight night here so that they could kind of see how the evolution has happened, because it's so different.
Oh, yeah.
But then they go and they watch fights with people they know after they've been training for a while. And it's like such a great feeling for them to actually be able to look and understand what they're seeing, and like they couldn't do that before they came in here. Or even a movie where, now you see a little bit more jujitsu in movies, so like somebody throws on a triangle or something and they know what's happening, whereas before they would have had no idea, like, you're choking somebody with that.
Yeah. I always tell my wife when we're watching we watch a lot of horror movies, and when they do like the straight arm choke, it's like, look at this weak ass choke they're doing. Yeah, that's not doing anything to anyone. And now my wife says it when she sees it. She's like, look at the weak ass choke. It's like, geez Louise, lady. Like, relax. Like, they're doing the best they can. Um, but yeah, it it's always weird to me, the thing, just I guess because being in this community, my brain automatically assumes, oh, everybody's seen a fight, right? Everybody's watched UFC or something, and it's like, ooh, maybe not,
Yeah.
because like I feel like martial artists aren't always necessarily the most tightly wound individuals. We have, like, restraint, but there are moments where it's like, hey, if you're actively signing up to fight other people, probably got some demons there. But
There's something going on. Yeah.
at least I assume. I don't know. I don't know what's in everyone's head. I mean, you look at George St. Pierre, he seems like, very, very sweet guy, very well like mannered. And it's like, oh, but he's beating that guy up really, really badly. But he's also the kind of guy that's like, you know what? Like, I think he could date my sister. He seems like a
Yeah.
gentleman. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we sometimes have little altercations in our parking lot here because we're right next to a pot dispensary, and our parking lot is our parking lot. It is not their parking lot. But and it used to be fine, but their customers sometimes will park and then they back into our customers' cars. So we had to like
oh,
start not letting them park in our parking lot, which really can piss some people off when you tell them they can't park in a certain spot. And we've done a lot to keep them from parking out there. But one of my coaches went over to ask somebody to to ask them not to serve somebody until he moved his car, and they had no interest in helping us with the parking lot situation. So the guy ends up pulling his phone out of his pocket and putting it in her face and yelling at her, and she did like a straight arm, like reached it, got an overhook and got a straight arm and got control on him, and then his phone flew out of his hand. So he got really mad. He went to punch her. She got out of the way of that and came running back to the gym. We hear something going on, so I head out to the parking lot. My husband comes out behind me. My husband's probably better at keeping control of himself than I am. And so I kind of got into like an argument with this guy. He was real stupid. Like, the coach that I had sent over there she's like 5'4", 5'5", 125 pounds. This guy is taller than me. I'm 5'9". Um, and he won't move his car. And so I went out, she came in, and I'm like yelling with him, and I'm cussing. I'm telling him he needs to move his car, and I'm trying to keep, I'm cussing, but I'm keeping pretty good control over myself at first. And then he said he was going to call the cops, which I'm like, please call the cops. And I turned and I started to walk off. And then he said something else. And I have cameras outside. So later I was watching those cameras and I see myself, whatever he said just pissed me off. And I turn around and I start to head back, and my husband comes over and puts his hands between us and he's like, go inside. And so then I had to go inside. So there's always like, I think I have pretty good self-control, but there are those things that like, there's always that moment that you got to make the right decision or get yourself into more of an altercation. So
Sometimes it's tough though, and when things get heated, it gets very difficult to once you're at 100, it's hard to come back down to 40.
yeah,
So
yeah, it is.
I get
You
you.
got all that feeling going on inside you, your adrenaline's dropped and
But not for nothing, it sounds like the dude over there probably needed, some martial arts classes to kind of help control his emotions because since I know for myself, since training, I am in far fewer like altercations out and about. As a matter of fact, like if I do go out, I'm more so sitting in the corner, like with my friends, having if something goes on, it's like, you be aware of it, but it's like I
right.
don't like, but 15 years ago, I would have been like the first one. Oh, there's a fight breaking out. I want to jump in this too. Like I want to have fun. Now I'm like, ooh, a fight. Yeesh.
Yeah, yeah. I was just in a UPS store recently and some lady was very upset about having to pay to send back an Amazon package. And so I was just standing there waiting for my turn and I accidentally stepped in front of her while she was walking away very aggressively. And so then I tried to step down of the way. And it was one of those situations where, like, I'd move, she'd move, I'd move, she'd move. And it was just getting worse and worse. And she started yelling in my face. And I was able to maintain my composure really well. But in my head, I'm thinking, man, you have no idea how bad this could go. Like, please just move on, Like, and sometimes that's how I get myself through stuff. I just think about the skills I have and how it's really unnecessary for us to have this altercation. And I mean, when you train, you don't really want to fight. Like, I don't want to go get in a fight and make it so I can't go train, right? Because I've got hurt. I also know what it feels like to get punched, so I don't really want to get punched by some random person. And I don't want to punch somebody and hurt my hand because I don't have gloves on in the moment. I don't have a mouthpiece. Teeth are very expensive. So this is the stuff that goes through my head if there's the possibility of being in a fight outside of the gym.
Yeah, those are always the like kind of like the little list that goes down. My brain as something's happening. It's like, okay, so yeah, mouth guard, don't have one of those. Gloves, don't have one of those. Ooh, there's no match. That's cement. So definitely don't want to end up in a situation there. What else? Oh yeah. I'm over 18 now, so that's definitely gonna
Right.
go on my adult record if charges are pressed. It's funny that people, and I've heard this on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I've thought about it quite a bit too. But it's like it's funny that people who don't know how to fight are always the first ones who want to do so. And I, when I first heard that, I thought about, I was like, damn, dude, you're right. Because before I learned like any kind of martial arts, I was always the first one to try to jump into a fight, and now it's like not that I'm scared of the fight, but it's like you're aware of the consequences. Number one, number two. I had a guest on a couple years back, and he kind of used the analogy of bricklayers. Again, we'll go to bricklayers. It's like if you're a bricklayer and you go to the bar after work, and somebody comes up to you and say, "I can lay bricks faster than you." Like, you've been laying bricks all day. you're tired. You don't want to,
Right.
you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You know that you're better than him at laying bricks. So, and it's kind of like a similar mindset where it's like, I know the skills that I have, and I know that my
Yeah.
skills trump your skills. So I don't have to prove a point. Well, can't we all just, here, like I've been in situations where I've bought a dude a pitcher of beer just to make it like, look, man, I don't want any trouble here. Like, hey, pitcher on me. Like, take this.
Yeah.
Oh, and he even liked the beer. He was like this, this fucking rat's piss. I was like, oh my God, dude. Like you just want to be angry today, dude. Like, fine, I'll drink the beer. Like, I don't really want
Yeah.
to drink that much beer.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like most of the time, random altercations you run into have nothing to do with you. It has to do with whatever else went on in that person's day, and now they're grumpy, and you're the person who's standing in front of them. So,
Oh, yeah. One question I want to ask, I guess, as we get close to wrapping up here, is with running the gym and everything, and just having all these wonderful students. Is there anything that's like, what's like the most rewarding, I guess, part of all this for you?
um, so I love teaching anybody martial arts. Like I'm excited to teach. I get to teach at the gym I train at sometimes. So I teach men all the time, and getting to see them excited is pretty great. But there is nothing more rewarding than having somebody walk in the door who's lacking confidence. Maybe they're just getting out of a really bad relationship, right? So something like they just don't feel good about themselves. And then they come in and they start to learn martial arts, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and they feel strong. And up until that point, they didn't feel strong. They couldn't find that in themselves. And watching people change, watching the confidence in people grow, um, that's just the most rewarding thing, whether it's a kid or an adult. Seeing the way they change, like I have these teenagers that I've trained, from younger until they've become older teens or even young adults now. And so often, like their parents, but even the teenagers themselves will tell me what a positive influence I've had on their life. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding than that. More rewarding than knowing that I'm making people stronger, more confident, feeling better about themselves, improving people's days and improving people's lives. Like I don't know, how could I ask for anything better than that? How could I spend my time doing anything better than that? Like I don't know what would make me happier.
It's nice to hear that, that reflection there of knowing you're helping somebody and knowing that they're gaining from it. It speaks volumes about the program that you have there, and your character as well. So that's
Thank you.
super awesome. Uh, so, Sarah, this has been awesome. Thank you again for reaching out and being my guest here this episode. It's weird because the time zones. I was about to say this afternoon. It's like, damn, dude, it's evening for me. So I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
it's afternoon here still.
I'm
Thank you
always
so
trying
much
to
for having me.
figure out the time zones. Like,
I did that
um,
math in my head quite a few times when we were talking. So,
well, when you messaged me right before, I had to like I looked at the zone. I was like, I think that's right. I don't know. Here, let me do the calculations real quick. Yep, that's right. Okay. Um, before we get out of here, are there any shout outs or mentions that you'd like to leave our listeners with here?
oh, shout outs or mentions. Well, really, I'm grateful for the entire martial arts community, for everybody who does this and puts time into martial arts because it's what allows me to have my business. And my team, all the people who show up that I train, and the coaches that I've trained that coach for me, and then so all the amazing people at Girls Gym, and my coaches at Impact Jiu-Jitsu. The owner of Impact Jiu-Jitsu has always been very supportive of me, and I get to have amazing coaches there too. So, I mean, really, the entire community I'm so grateful for everybody. who helps martial arts and jiu-jitsu grow and become what it has become. So yeah.
Awesome. Good, good. I too thank the martial arts community because it's made me a better person for sure. So big shout out to the martial arts community. Thank you, all of you guys and gals. And as usual, to the listeners, thank you. If you all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, anything, feel free to reach out. You can always find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast, also on Instagram. You can email at offthemats2020@gmail.com if you like. But, you know, sometimes I be getting scared of those emails, so I might not see it. So just get a hold of me on social media. It's easier. I can tell which bots are trying to scam me and trying to sell me new geese and who's trying to be on the podcast. I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio. Bobby, Chris, Joe, Maryland Phil, Ricky, Tiki, everyone. Thank you. If it wasn't for Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. So definitely have to thank those guys. Maryland Phil was just on the last episode. We did a Nerdcast, and I haven't talked to Phil in almost a year. So the episode had nothing to do with martial arts. It was just us talking about comic books, action figures, and just you guys just got to sit in on a conversation about us just being nerds. I think we argued for a minute at one point. I might have yelled at him. Then he yelled back. And he said, we're friends. And then Bobby's actually going to be on our horror podcast, talking about The Exorcist with me coming up very soon. So big shout out to those guys. And speaking of which, shout out to my other podcast, So You Like Horror. If you're into scary movies, go check it out. This year we've been talking about cursed films, and our last one for the year is The Curse of the Exorcist, because they believe the film's cursed. I don't think it is. Spoiler alert. But go listen to the episode. You can hear why I don't think it is. And then as we're prepping for 2025, we're going to actually be working on a new theme. We're going to be talking about remakes versus originals. So we have a whole list of films that we're going to be discussing throughout the year. And if you're into that kind of stuff, go check it out. So You Like Horror over there on Instagram, all the words separated by underscores. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to our guest, Miss Sarah Oriza. Thank you so much for making the time again and sharing your journey and your story. And we definitely would love to have you back on. If you like to come back on, we definitely want to have you back. And because I felt like as we started talking, and it was like, okay, now we're getting out of the interview and me looking at questions here. Now we're just talking. Now we're jiving. So definitely want to have you back. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I would love to come back.
Awesome. And that's always the feel here is like, I always want to create an atmosphere where the guests are like, look, I'd love to come back. Because if we do an episode and you're like, I'm glad that's over. And I'm like, oh my God, what, like I made a mistake. What did I do? Because I want the podcast always be very welcoming and inviting to everyone. Even like I've had some guests where the episodes were a little didn't it sound like there's some back and forth going on there. But we still ended the episode where we're like, look, let's do this again, even though we argued a little bit. So I'm looking forward to having you back on and expanding our conversation and just chatting it up some more. And for the listeners again, we love you guys. Thank you. You know what it is. You guys keep listening. We're going to definitely keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye. I'm here for fun. Enjoy yourself, bitches.